MMORPGs are one of my favorite genres within the gaming industry. Maybe you know me for the content I made last year of trying World of Warcraft for the very first time. Or perhaps you're aware that I'm a huge fan of Guild Wars 2. Even as a kid, I was playing multiplayer games like Pirates of the Caribbean Online, Toontown, and even RuneScape. That is until my parents found out I was playing a game with demons and magic in it within their Christian household. And that's when I was ripped out of Lumbridge and I was never allowed to play RuneScape again. Yeah, we don't talk about those dark times. I'm still recovering to this day. But even though I have a backlog of video games that I still have to try for the very first time, and of course, there's a list of titles that I actually sat down and started playing, but ended up walking away, and eventually I'll get around to beating these games at one point or another. But oftentimes, you'll find me sitting back down and playing MMORPG games because, quite frankly, I enjoy the aspect of having real players online within the game world at all times. Whether you're just seeing players idle around AFK in cities, or perhaps you have players just wanting to show off their armor, transmog, and their characters in general that they customize and took so much time making them perfect. And it's amazing to see how much collaboration and teamwork is needed to beat endgame bosses or raids within MMORPGs. All these aspects combined together and just the interactions you can have with players within these game worlds. That's why MMORPGs are so fascinating to me, and I'm always drawn back to this genre of video games compared to the single player games that are on the market. But there are actually two big MMORPG games that I haven't tried out at all: Final Fantasy XIV and Elder Scrolls Online. I think it's safe to say that it's time for me to start playing one of these games. But I'll be inviting you guys to be part of the process as well. See, MMORPG games are exciting to play in general, but they're way more fun when you have other players there to play alongside with you and help you out with learning different mechanics and systems within the game. And if you've played these games already in the past and you know exactly what you're doing, or you've never played either of these titles, I'm gonna be inviting you to join alongside me and play this game together. That's right, on my live stream, the link is in the description down below. You can join me when I start playing these games for the very first time. But the main question you might be asking is, moopliss, what game are you gonna be playing? Well, I'll be sharing with you what I'm excited about with both titles and the other elements that I'm actually really nervous about. Maybe you can help me pick which title I should jump into. Let me know in the comment section down below what you prefer. But before you write a whole monologue of, oh, moopliss, you should try Final Fantasy XIV because you can be a little Lalafell. Okay, hold on, wait a second. Let me share with you how I feel about both titles, and then you can go ahead and let me know which game I should begin playing. But without further ado, this is the perspective of a new player and how they feel about Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy XIV. Now, before we jump into both of these games on screen, I just want to address the audience who are fans of my other content, like World of Warcraft and Guild Wars 2. Don't worry, guys, you don't have to pee your pants. It doesn't mean I'm uninstalling these games if I'm going to try another MMORPG. I'll still be making content covering these other titles. In fact, for the rest of 2024, in World of Warcraft, I'll be hosting one single transmog competition every single month, because this guy right here, he doesn't do it anymore. I think he's busy reacting to content. And for Guild Wars 2, I'm eager to try out weapons like the axe, which will finally be available for the thief. And eventually, I'll finally build up that army and overtake everyone within World versus World. I'll conquer everything when ArenaNet actually adds Guild Wars within Guild Wars 2. Yeah, okay, it's a complicated process, just let them cook, but once that's finally added into the game, boy, I'll be excited to jump into World versus World again. But because of my great experience I had last year diving out of my comfort zone in Guild Wars 2 and trying World of Warcraft for the very first time, I learned a lot about MMORPGs and met new communities of players. Hopefully I can experience the same and understand why there are players who still play titles like Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy XIV. Let's go ahead and start with the very first one, Elder Scrolls Online. And I'm gonna go ahead and rip off the band-aid entirely and just let you know up front, I've never actually played a single Elder Scrolls game in my entire life. But the whole reason as to why Elder Scrolls is on my radar in the first place is because of my good friend Lidfar. Him and I grew up going to school together, and whenever we had a free moment, either walking to our next class or during lunch, we were always talking about MMORPG games. He got me hooked on games like MapleStory. Yeah, I actually have a tattoo of one of the characters in the game on my hand. And of course, Guild Wars 2. Without him, I actually wouldn't be the Guild Wars 2 fan that I am today. So thanks Lidfar for like literally ruining my life and getting me hooked on MMORPG games. I'll never forgive you.
You're welcome. I love you too.
Nah, I'm teasing. But in all honesty, he's been messaging me on Discord and sharing with me so many beautiful screenshots of his time playing ESO. And that's actually piqued my interest. While playing Fortnite the other day, there was actually a Elder Scrolls character that appeared in the item shop. So I'm seeing so many tidbits of Elder Scrolls Online everywhere on the internet. So I've done some research to figure out like what I'm excited about and things that I'm actually kind of nervous about. The things I'm excited about is the whole world in general. There's so many games out there within the Elder Scrolls series covering different like locations of land within the game. And I think that'll be really exciting to explore that within the MMORPG. Not to mention this game, by what I've heard, you're allowed to explore the game in any pace you want to. Like if I want to go to the Skyrim area, maybe I'm really making a fool of myself right now. But if I want to go to like the Morrowind area first, or perhaps I want to go to the Skyrim area, I can choose to do that within the game. And the game won't say anything like you're over leveled or you're under leveled. You can't do this content yet. I love this kind of open world exploration that allows you to just make the experience you want to within MMORPGs. And it looks like ESO is allowing players to do that within the game. Quite frankly, the combat in the game looks exciting. I think it's going to be kind of similar to Guild Wars 2's combat. I don't see a ton of skills within people's skill bars, so maybe it won't be too overwhelming to play. But of course, I'll have to taste that myself when I start playing the game for the first time. I think the game's art style actually looks cool in general. It looks a little bit dated in my opinion, but in all honesty, I think the art style that ESO has in general is very different from other games that are on the market. Another aspect that I'm actually very excited about is you don't have to pay for a subscription. That's an optional thing. I'm a big fan of games that don't force you into paying subscriptions, so I like that. I think any subscriptions are kind of a barrier to entry, and ESO, although there is like an optional subscription by what I've heard, I don't have to pay something up front to try the game, which is great. Also, the classes within the game look pretty cool. By what I understand, anyone can wear any armor type, if I'm correct. I might actually be wrong about this, but the two that have actually caught my eye are the Sorcerer and the Nightblade. I mean, I played a Thief back in Guild Wars 2, so I think it's time for me to actually try out a Nightblade in ESO. I think that might be cool to turn invisible, and I think it can give me the edge in PvP if I want to explore that aspect. Also, first person mode in an MMORPG, at least this is what I've seen online. Maybe this isn't a thing anymore, and I'm just seeing other Elder Scrolls games, but first person in ESO, like an MMORPG, that excites me. I've never kind of experienced that. We'll see if I actually just refer to playing in third person in general, but I'll give first person a shot a little bit. The things that push me away from ESO is it seems like there's a lot of expansions, so if I want to play all the content, I either one, have to buy all the expansions just up front, or two, I have to be a subscriber for the game in order to get access to all that content. Obviously that sucks. I think I'm more of a player who would rather buy something and play whenever I want to. The subscription kind of element makes me feel like I'm forced to play that game, and this is the vibe that I get whenever I play WoW. So I don't really know what to do if I enjoy ESO. Do I buy all the expansions up front? Do I actually just pay for the subscription and play through the content and then stop paying when I'm done? And I'm actually not too sure about the end game content. Like, do most people play like raids? Are more people interested in PvP? These things I don't know, but I'm interested in learning. Lastly, I'm aware that a lot of the cool looking armor sets in the game are exclusive to the cash shop. And I know this is something that keeps the game afloat and allows for players to play the game without a subscription, at least to start off. I'm kind of bummed out about that. I don't know if they have like a gold to like currency that you can spend in the cash shop shop that they have. Like games such as Guild Wars 2, they have this concept where I can take gold that I make within the game and transfer it into like a cash shop currency, which they call gems. It makes it easier to buy items that normally you would use real world money for, but I'm not too sure if ESO allows that. I think the Nord like heroic armor, basically the armor that this kind of skin in Fortnite has, I think that'd be pretty cool armor to have on my character, but I don't know, like, is this in the cash shop at all times? Are there other cool armor sets in the game that I can actually play to earn? That's something that I'm interested in learning more about, but I have read online that a lot of the cool looking armor is within the cash shop. I don't know, I guess we'll see. And that's essentially what I'm excited and nervous about for Elder Scrolls Online. Now let's take a look at the other flip side of the coin, Final Fantasy XIV. This game was exploding in popularity about 2 years ago when a lot of people from the WoW community wanted to try a new MMORPG in general. I think it's important to let you guys know what type of Square Enix games I played growing up. I'll rip off this band-aid again up front and be clear with you guys. I've never played a Final Fantasy game in my entire life.
You failed!
Okay, all right, you guys don't have to boo at me. Listen, I have played other Square Enix games. In fact, I'm a huge fan of the Kingdom Hearts games that are available to play. That's something I grew up playing in my childhood, and of course I played a majority of them that are available. And I had a great time. Of course, I saw other Final Fantasy characters within the Kingdom Hearts series, and I'm kind of like aware of it. Like, okay, I know this character's name is Cloud Strife. What is this magician looking character, and why is he so cool looking? I'm also a big fan of the Studio Ghibli films. I can thank my girlfriend for getting me hooked onto these films, so I'm quite aware of just playing through Kingdom Hearts and knowing Studio Ghibli films that Japanese kind of studios or any type of Japanese media, the story is going to be kind of crazy at some points. Like literally some of the Kingdom Hearts games, there's some crazy stuff that happens. The game starts off really simple, and then like at the end of the game, you're like in a whole new world taking on like God as the final boss kind of thing. And I expect like the Final Fantasy story to start out very like chill and normal. And then at the end of the day, like 40 hours in or 50 hours in, this is something that is going to get really crazy and hectic. And I'm a big fan of how Japanese developers or movie studios like Studio Ghibli, how they tell stories. That type of element where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes or hour within the film or video game is really exciting. So I can't wait to experience that within Final Fantasy XIV. And a lot of people say the story is like the big highlight for the game. You got to play through the story. You got to make sure you know what's happening in the story. Hey, if the story's good, I'm all up for it. I'll spend some time reading all the text bubbles. I won't skip any of the cutscenes. Don't cancel me, Final Fantasy XIV players. I'm gonna try and enjoy the story. This is what everyone talks about this game. Something I don't hear a lot of people talk about is the fact that I can create only one character, and that is the character that I can play for the entire time when I'm in the game. I don't have to make alternative characters to play other classes. I think they call them jobs in this game, but I can basically switch to any class or job while I'm playing on that one single character. That is awesome. I love that. I think this should be a feature for a lot of other MMORPGs. And the classes and jobs that are in the game, if I had to pick one, I'm sorry guys, once I saw this character in Kingdom Hearts 2, that's when I did a little bit of research and kind of put together that this is a black mage. And when I was a kid, I got my butt whooped by a black mage in Mario Hoops 3-on-3. So I think I gotta jump into Final Fantasy XIV and play as a black mage. You can't talk me into playing other classes or jobs. I want a big hat on my head the whole time. I want to cast those big spells. I'm gonna be that dude in the back, either cranking up the DPS or just dead on the floor because I am dumb and missed a mechanic.
Bruh.
Another thing I'm excited about is I think I can play a lot of the base game and a couple of the expansions without paying for a subscription. And that should give me enough time to figure out if I want to actually pay for a subscription or not. Not to mention, this summer, they're gonna have a brand new subscription and 2 different jobs for the game. And the job that has really caught my eye is this painter class. How cool is that to be like an artist job or class within a game? It's a range DPS class. I can also like buff and heal people at the same time in a minor way. Super stoked for that. That reminds me of a class I enjoy playing within Guild Wars 2. Can't wait to jump into it. I'm very excited to try try that out. And in a nutshell, those are all the things I'm excited about for FF14. As for the things I'm nervous about, I'm actually nervous for like the first 20 or 30 hours of the game. See, everybody says about this game, you know, you gotta play through the story so that way, when things happen later on in the game, you'll know what's happening because you paid attention. And other people say the first like 40 hours of the game, it's super boring story-wise. Like, it's not the most exciting thing. It picks up as you get to different expansions throughout the game. So I'm just hoping that I don't churn or stop playing the game because the first half of the game is just kind of more slow and boring. Sorry, I know, I don't want to like trash on the game before playing it, but I've just heard this overall about the community. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan about subscriptions, but I heard that there's not a ton of like flashy or cool items within the cash shop of the game. There are some things that you can buy in there, but what I've heard online, it seems like the subscription side of things is brought to the game in a safe way so that way the items that you earn in game are the cool looking things that you want to wear and not the things in the cash shop. And it seems like for FF14, there's a lot less negatives or things that I'm worried about compared to Elder Scrolls Online. But in general, you guys probably have a better consensus or idea as to what title I should jump into. So here's the deal. I'm gonna go ahead and pick one of these two games and start playing them on stream. I'd love for you guys to join me, but before I make my decision, let me know in the comment section down below which title I should jump into. And if you're interested in joining me within the game, it'd be really funny to have like 20 or 30 people run through the game together. And I think other experienced players would be maybe confused and they might join us. I think it can be so much fun to play a brand new MMORPG for me with a bunch of other people. Even if you're experienced in the game or if you've never played one of these titles, it'd be awesome to play with you guys on stream. Feel free to join me. Looking forward to reading your comments and recommendations as to which title I should pick. And thanks so much for watching. As always, stay hydrated, gamers.